What's going on, friends? My name is M238, and welcome back to another episode of Master Detective Archive's Rain Code for the Nintendo Switch. We're all up last time. We went through Fubuki's Lucky Day. I don't know if you can consider it kind of lucky, but in this part, we're going to be moving on to the next sub-story, which is Raining Cats and Dogs. Once again, if you want to access these levels, then you can go on the eShop and buy the DLC for this game. Each of these chapters, these DLC chapters, are $5 each, so they're not very hard to get. But let's go ahead and get started with this chapter. The Nocturnal Detective Agency receives a request to investigate an unusual drowning. Was it suicide or murder? Will Master Detective Halara be able to solve this odd and onerous case? Let's go.
Halara, do you know where the milk I put in the fridge went? I was saving it for my coffee.
Beats me.
That's my seat, you know.
How much?
Huh?
How much do you want for it? I'll pay your asking price. Well?
You gotta be kidding. Fine. Just keep sitting there.
I will.
Huh? Someone's coming. I wasn't expecting guests today. Right this way. It's a bit cramped in here.
Are you the chief of the Nocturnal Detective Agency? My name is Tetra. Pleased to meet you.
I'm the chief. That's just one of our detectives.
Oh, excuse me. Your detective was sitting at the biggest desk here, so I assumed that...
My seat gets stolen the moment I leave it open. Let's sit down.
I was told you investigate murders.
The murder case? It's possible for us to handle it, but what we can or can't do depends on whether or not the peacekeepers have already gone through it.
I see. My father passed away in a rather bizarre manner. The peacekeepers declared it was an accidental death. But I just can't believe it was an accident.
The peacekeepers usually try to declare any unnatural deaths as accidents. Why do you suspect that it wasn't one?
My father kept tropical fish as a hobby. One morning, he was found dead, drowned with his head stuck in the fish tank. Do you really think that could be an accident?
He drowned with his head stuck in a fish tank? Can you describe the situation?
The fish tank is set rather low, so you can view it from above. My father was in a kneeling position, with his head dunked into the water.
That sure is bizarre. What did the peacekeepers have to say?
They say he was electrocuted, and passed out when he touched the temperature control switch with wet hands. And he fell into the water and drowned, unfortunately.
Are you sure the cause of death was drowning?
Yes, that appears to be the case without a doubt. A trustworthy doctor did the autopsy.
I see. From what you've said, you can't really deny that it could have been an accident.
No, the problem is the room where my father passed away. It was obvious that someone else had rummaged around.
What do you mean?
Well, the room has lots of tropical fish tanks lined up. But on the day my father died, all of them were shattered to pieces. And of course there was water and dead fish all over the floor. Someone must have forced their way into the room to do something so terrible. I believe my father was murdered by whoever did that. This must be a murder. Please uncover the truth of my father's death.
What do you think, Alara?
Beats me. I wasn't paying attention.
Don't lie. There's no way you couldn't hear us.
You can assume I don't exist, unless pay is involved.
I can pay. My father left me an inheritance.
Oh, don't mind my detective. Our rates are always reasonable here.
Then you'll investigate this case on my behalf?
Huh? Yes, of course. As detectives sworn to protect this town, we can't leave any mysteries unsolved.
Thank you. I'm so happy I worked up the courage to come here.
The Nocturnal Detective Agency is here to protect the peace of Kanai Ward. You can always count on us. As for investigating this case, we'll check out the crime scene soon. Promise. Jeez.
That was rather reckless of you to promise.
It's not like I have a choice. I can't just abandon people in need. I'm Yaku Furio, chief of the Nocturnal Detective Agency. I gotta protect this town.
Do you even have a single lead to solve this case?
What? Of course. I'm a detective after all. If I proceed with the investigation, I'm sure I can find some kind of clue. But I'll need your help, Alara.
That depends on the payment.
You know I don't have a lot of money.
And you know that I don't work for cheap.
Then, how about a deal instead?
What deal?
If you solve this case, I'll let you keep a cat here.
Really?
Yes, really. Hey, where are you going?
To the crime scene.
Hold on. The client just left. Why don't you wait until tomorrow?
Fine. I shall review the case's records until then.
Alara's fee is cheaper than I thought.
Thank you for coming. You really are willing to investigate the case.
Well, that's our duty at the Nocturnal Detective Agency. Your house is pretty big. Your father must have been well off.
Yes. My father owned a medical devices company. He contributed to Kanai Ward's medical advancements for years. I simply can't believe he met his end like this.
We'll find justice for him.
Thank you. I am in your debt. This is my fiancé, Jaren. We've been living together for about a year now.
Nice to meet you. I'd like to ask you more about the details later, but can we take a look at the scene for now? Oh, before that, do you have a photo of your father?
Of course. Here's a picture from when he was still alive.
Thank you. Alara, over here. I'll leave the investigation to you. It's a bit too cramped for all of us to be wandering about. I'll keep speaking to them outside. Talk to me when you're done.
Understood. Now, time to review the cards I've been dealt.
You definitely want to remember this.
In clues, you can review the info of acquired clues. Alright, so... this is some kind of aquarium. Broken fish tank.
All of the fish tanks have been shattered. There's broken glass scattered on the inside, which means it's certain someone smashed it inward. Why would someone do this?
This looks to me like some kind of robbery of some kind.
I see.
The equipment and food for the tropical fish are placed together. Seems like nothing has been used since the incident. There's some dust. Okay, so I guess I can rule that part out. Door?
There is a sticky substance stuck to the door frame. Perhaps tape residue?
Somebody tape the door? There's more broken stuff over here.
Right.
There are stains on the floor. It is likely due to the water spilled from the fish tanks. Other than that, nothing else seems suspicious. So this must have happened pretty recently.
It's a regular sliding window with a crescent lock. There are no suspicious marks on it. There is a small veranda outside. We're on the second floor, so any rain that falls off the eaves flows to the drain.
So there's a drain. Wall stains.
What is this? There is a stain here that looks like a horizontal line. Upon close inspection, there appears to be a faint outline of the same stain along all 4 walls.
Interesting. So I can't even like imagine what these stains are like the cause of. And then we got the body. Okay, when's a good time? Vent.
An ordinary vent. There's some blue paint on the inner side of the frame. Looks like something rubbed against it. This may have something to do with the case.
I investigated the things of note, but... Wait, can I just use my...
That's about all I can investigate for now. I should go talk to our clients before I observe the crime scene at the time the body was discovered. The crime scene has been inspected, Chief.
Thanks.
There are a few things I'd like to confirm.
Yes, please ask me anything.
Can you give me the details of when you discovered the body?
It was, I think, around 6 in the morning. My father usually woke up early for breakfast, but when I went to get him, he wasn't in his room. So I looked around and noticed Sugar barking at this room.
Sugar?
That's the name of our dog. Hey! Sugar sure is happy. She's rarely friendly with anyone.
She barks at me all the time.
There.
Shall we continue?
Oh, sorry. Sugar was barking in front of the room, so I opened the door to take a look. There I saw my father. His head was in the fish tank. He was already gone.
I heard her scream and ran over, but what I saw took my breath away. The fish tanks were all destroyed. The floor was covered with water. All the tropical fish Father loved were scattered across the floor, dead. Were they valuable?
I'm not sure. I don't know how much they were worth, but the fact is, my father cared for them a great deal.
If it was a lot of fish, then it adds up to being expensive.
If the fish were expensive, do you think someone tried to steal them?
Are you implying my father's murder was an afterthought?
Well, I'm just considering possibilities.
If they were going to steal the fish, I doubt they'd smash the tanks.
You're right.
Do you know the estimated time of death for the victim?
I believe it was around 10 o'clock the night before.
How do you confirm that? If you found him at 6, did the Peacekeepers say that?
When was the last time you saw him alive?
Right around 7 that night. I ate dinner with him. He went to his room after that.
Does anyone else live here?
It's just me and him now. The servant left after making dinner before 7.
Tell me, what were you doing around 10 that night?
After finishing dinner with my father, I did some cleaning and washed the dishes. Jaren came to the dining hall around 8 for dinner. And then we watched TV in the living room until around midnight.
Yes. I know for certain we were together between 8 and midnight.
Did you ever get up during that time? Such as to go to the bathroom?
I don't think so.
Were there any screams or sounds of a struggle around 10 at night?
No, not at all.
I see. That leaves me wondering who entered that room, when they did, and why they smashed all the fish tanks. The fish tanks are large and have thick glass. You'd think you'd hear them being smashed.
True. All I know for certain is that we didn't hear anything like that.
Probably because when you're watching TV, the volume of the TV is loud enough that you can't hear it.
Do you often come in and out of this room?
Not at all. Only my father used this room.
What did the Peacekeepers have to say when they saw the state of things in the room?
They said my father was stressed out. That he lost control and smashed all the tanks.
Typical Peacekeeper report. All their bullshit.
Was he actually stressed out?
Truth be told, my father was lamenting over a prized tropical fish he had accidentally killed that morning. I thought he could have done something extreme, given how much he regretted his mistake.
He did look rather depressed.
Still, my mild-mannered father would never do something like this.
Did you notice
Yeah, I don't
anything
know.
strange
I don't
about your
believe that you
father
can
during dinner?
suicide over accidentally killing a fish and being depressed about it.
He was sad about the fish, but he ate normally. I didn't notice anything in particular.
It's hard to think he was so distraught that he'd smash all the tanks on his own.
You're right. But that's what the Peacekeepers told us happened.
I'll take another look around. For now, I'd like to ask you to leave the room.
So you're gonna do that thing, yeah? I'm counting on you. Let's wait outside.
The trump card is still face down. Time to use my post-cognition to see how things were at the time the body was first discovered.
Oh boy, that's dreadful. Okay, so it looks like the door was open. So then, what does the tape have to do with? Oh, maybe the tape has to do with whatever the heck these stains have to do. Even in post-cognition, traces of a sticky substance are on the frame. Was some kind of tape stuck on? Well, what is that thing on the floor? Doesn't look like I can examine that. Okay. So it looks like the lamp was like knocked over or something.
I see.
All tanks seem to have been smashed inward. There's not much difference from the room in its present state. Oh, wait a minute!
I see.
At the time the body was found, many things were scattered around. this sort of mess be caused by just a broken fish tank? Floor?
There are dead tropical fish everywhere. The whole floor is completely drenched.
Okay. Buckets on the floor. Let's try the window.
It's not locked. Anyone could come and go through here. Perhaps this is how the culprit entered the place. There's a dead tropical fish in the drain on the veranda. Why would that be there?
Her dad left the door unlocked, which gave a perfect opportunity for someone to come in and kill him and ruin this room. I see. How about the vent?
The paint stuck on the frame can be seen here.
Alright, the stains. It seems the stains on the walls were present when the body was found. I don't see any particular differences. No, the stains are darker than they are currently. Does that mean they were made around this time? Okay. And then the corpse.
The victim's body is kneeling against the edge of a fish tank, with his head inside. Like the other tanks, this one is smashed up too. Looking closely, he is soaking wet. It'd make sense if it was just his upper body, but for his whole body to be soaked is unusual.
Well, maybe all the water came out from the fish tank, which got all over him, probably.
I'm beginning to see the truth behind this case. That's all the investigating I need to do for now.
Alright, so I guess that's it.
Are you done?
The dog has something in her mouth.
Hey, Sugar!
What's this?
That's Sugar's favorite toy. It's just a rubber hose tied up in a knot. Ever since she was a puppy, Sugar has loved playing tug-of-war with a rubber hose. So I still make toys out of hoses like this. But I don't think I made one for her recently. Where did she get it from?
Wow, that's interesting. Let me take a look.
Wait, don't touch it.
What's wrong?
Put that in a plastic bag without touching it directly. I believe it's evidence.
That's evidence?
Consider it a precaution.
How's the investigation going? Are the peacekeepers right? Did my father pass away due to an accident? Or was it...
The answer is clear. This was no accident, but a murder.
Huh? Really?
Okay, so our speculation was right. At least my speculation was right.
What makes you think it's a murder?
My thinking.
It must be a murder because the walls, the fish tank, the window, the floors. The window? What about it? Open.
No, it's not enough to disprove the theory that it was
What? The fish tanks. What about it? Shattered.
The victim died with his head in the fish tank. Is that right?
Yes, that is certain.
As you can see, this fish tank was destroyed like all the others. That is far too strange. It means something logically impossible occurred.
Impossible? What do you mean?
I shouldn't have to explain it. If the victim drowned with his head in the tank, then it had to be filled with water. But as you can see, the fish tank is destroyed, meaning it is unable to contain water. Like with the other tanks, the water spilled out when it was smashed, emptying it. So how could the victim drown in a fish tank that held no water?
Oh, now that you mention it.
The peacekeepers claim the victim was disoriented and smashed the fish tanks himself. But if the victim was still alive when he smashed the fish tanks, it would have been impossible for him to have drowned. In other words, the victim was drowned, then placed next to the fish tank to make it seem like an accident. The culprit must have believed this camouflage would be enough to fool the peacekeepers.
So my father was murdered.
Yes, there is no mistake about it. This is murder.
Hold on. If the culprit wanted to make the victim look like he drowned, why did they destroy the fish tank? Didn't they realize their cover would be blown? And plus, all the fish tanks were destroyed, not just that one.
It must have been part of their plan for the peacekeepers to overlook this contradiction. However, destroying the tanks required a lot of effort. If the culprit did so despite the contradiction it created, then we have to assume there was an unavoidable reason behind it.
An unavoidable reason.
So, who is the culprit?
I must investigate further to find that out. I'll report back once I find the answer.
Yes, please.
Has anyone outside your family entered or left the house recently?
I don't think so.
Were there any tradesmen who came to work on your place?
I can't think of any.
Allow me to change the question. Have you recently done any remodeling or repairs to the home?
Oh, now that you mention it. The rain gutters on the roof were broken, so Jaren fixed them.
He fixed the rain gutters?
Yes, he's an avid DIYer. He not only fixed the broken parts, but also checked the gutters around the whole building, which was a lot of work.
I see. That concludes my investigation.
What? Are you sure that's enough? Jeez, you're always off in your own world. I'm sorry about that. Our ace detective isn't very friendly.
Are you sure you should be saying that to people?
That being said, I believe this case will be solved soon. Please be patient for just a bit longer.
Thank you.
Alara, just as you suspected, it could be the fiancé. Jaren has been living in the client's home and mooching off her since he got fired from his job a year back. He's in quite a lot of debt, too. At one point, he was spending almost all his time in casinos. He kept asking the client's father for money, but was always denied. Seems the father was also against their marriage.
So money is the motive. If the father were to die, the daughter would inherit everything. So if he married her, the money would be his.
Makes sense. The thing is, that man has an alibi. The victim's estimated time of death is 10 at night. There's no mistake that Jaren was with the client at that time. It makes no sense to suspect Tetra, since she's our client, so we have to assume his alibi is airtight.
Right. I agree.
His alibi is perfect. Not only was he with Tetra at 10, but he was also with her for 2 hours before and after. So, as it stands, it's impossible for him to have killed the victim.
No, the alibi isn't a problem. It's possible if a certain trick was used.
A trick?
But I still lack hard evidence. Perhaps it's worth rolling the dice here.
Hey, are you sure about this?
We'll make our move tonight. Let's go to the client.
Is it true that you know the truth behind this case?
That's right, miss. Allow me to explain. The key detail for this case is the victim's cause of death. Without a doubt, the victim died by drowning. But making it look like he drowned in the fish tank was camouflage. Why would such a thing even be needed? Because it secured the killer's alibi.
You said that the victim's time of death was around 10 p.m. In other words, the culprit secured their alibi at the same time as they murdered the victim. Is that really possible?
Through a certain trick, it was possible to drown the victim even if the culprit wasn't there.
Drown him without being there?
The trick the culprit used was...
The vents, the fish tank, the hose, the body? Is it the hose? How so? Flooded the room?
First, it involves this rubber hose.
That's Sugar's toy.
If you untie the knot, it returns to being a hose. This was what was first used in the crime.
How was it used? Don't tell me that's the murder weapon.
If you check the vent, you'll see the color of paint scraped on there matches the hose. It was likely passed through the vent.
Someone put the hose in the vent. Why would anyone do that?
It's nothing special. The hose was simply used for its original purpose.
Its original purpose?
One end of the hose was placed on the edge of the rain gutter on the veranda side. Prior to this, the culprit adjusted the rain gutter so that the hose could be inserted into it. The rainwater from the gutter passed through the hose, filling the room.
Huh? What do you mean? Hilari, you think this place got flooded with rainwater?
Wait, wouldn't the whole house be flooded then?
That would drench the whole place.
When the body was found, the room was, in fact, drenched.
But that was because of the broken fish tanks, right?
That's part of it. But the main reason was due to rainwater pouring into the enclosed room.
Wait, what do you mean? What's the point in flooding this room with rainwater?
The culprit's goal was to secure their own alibi at the estimated time of death. This trick was necessary for that.
I don't get it. Can you explain from the beginning?
Let's go over what the culprit did on the day of the crime in order. First, the culprit mixed sleeping pills into the victim's dinner.
Sleeping pills? Now where do you get this from?
While the victim was asleep, the culprit proceeded to prepare the trick.
Sleeping pills in his food? That reminds me. My father did seem sleepy shortly after eating dinner.
After dinner, the victim likely went to his room to lay down. The culprit then sneaked into his room and carried him out while he was asleep. That was how the victim was transported to this room.
At this point, you're sure he was still alive?
Of course. If the culprit murdered the victim earlier, then their alibi wouldn't have worked. The culprit had to murder him in such a way that would secure their alibi. The preparations were done in this room. After bringing the victim here, the culprit used duct tape on the gap near the door to weather strip it.
Weather strip? What's that?
It prevents water from leaking outside.
What do you mean?
Let me explain. After weather stripping the door, the culprit started destroying the fish tanks. The culprit likely covered them with cloth to dampen the noise. Once he smashed all of them, he leaned the victim onto the fish tank. The culprit then moved to the window on the veranda and weather-stripped the outside of it. Finally, they took the hose connected to the rain gutter and passed it through the vent to the inside of the room. Preparations in place, the culprit left through the veranda and returned to the mansion as if nothing had happened.
How does that complete everything? The victim was still alive at the time, right? When was he murdered?
The victim naturally drowned after being left alone for several hours.
Huh? How's that?
The rainwater from the rubber hose flooded the room in a few hours. The whole room was turned into a fish tank, this time filled with rainwater. And that is how the victim drowned.
The whole room was flooded?
That can't be.
The proof lies in the stained walls. The day of the murder, the room must have been filled to that line with rainwater.
Rainwater killed the victim?
Correct. Only in this city could such an approach be possible. The rain never stops in Kanai Ward. This makes it easy to estimate the amount of rainfall to a certain degree. So it is not impossible to create this alibi trick with some calculation.
I think that's a bit of a stretch. Wouldn't it take at least half a day for the room to fill with enough rainwater to drown the victim?
Well, if you had dinner at 6, then that's about half a day.
I'm sure it would require more rainwater than usual to accomplish it. Which means you'd need to gather all the rain falling around this giant mansion.
Gather all of it how?
It would require slight adjustments to the rain gutters. After that, the rainwater would flow to the veranda.
Adjustments to the rain gutters?
There would be plenty of water if all of the rain that pours upon the mansion is rerouted to this room. That explains how the culprit secured their alibi while drowning the victim. In the morning, before the body was found, they removed the weather stripping and drained the water through the veranda. If you check the drain in the veranda, you should find dead tropical fish that were carried out with the rainwater. The culprit smashed the tanks beforehand to prevent rainwater from being stored inside. Well, that's how I would have done it. But maybe the culprit didn't realize that before they started draining the water. Seeing the fish tanks filled with rainwater, the culprit panicked and smashed all of the glass to hide the evidence. They must have carelessly broken the one fish tank the corpse was leaning on in the process. Isn't that how it went, Jaren? I'll be direct. You are the culprit.
Hold on. Is this some kind of joke? Why would I kill my father-in-law? That's stupid.
But you were fixing the rain gutters a few days before the incident.
That's because you asked me to fix them. How does fixing some stuff pin me as the culprit? That's crazy talk!
So you intend on maintaining that you're not the culprit?
Of course!
Then we'll have to ask our little friend for the answer. Come here, sugar. This is the rubber hose used for the trick. There are scrapes on its surface. That's the proof. I'm sure the culprit tried to dispose of it, tying it into a knot before throwing it away. But our friend here found it for us. Good girl, sugar. Only the culprit has directly touched the rubber hose. I'm certain his scent is still on it. Tell us, sugar, who do you smell on this?
So, it is you.
This is complete nonsense. I won't accept it. If I have to, I'll kill all of you.
Hey, Don't tell me that you're really...
I was so close to getting all that money.
Calm down! Hey! Why me?
I can kill the woman anytime. I'll start off with you. Damn you, detectives! This is your fault for sticking your nose into my life!
Can you handle this on your own, Chief?
I'm pretty bad at this sort of thing. Please help.
Shut up! I'll kill... Ow!
You saved me.
I never thought it would be like this. What am I supposed to do?
You're not alone. Huh? That's what she's saying.
If you ever need help, come to us. The Nocturnal Detective Agency will always be at your service.
Thank you.
As promised, you can keep that cat here.
I don't need your help. That's what the cat is saying.
Come on, this cat thinks it's some sort of hard-boiled detective? Well, I suppose I don't mind.
This city is a difficult place to live. Even for the animals.
Right. I hope we can keep solving the mysteries here to make this city a better place. And make it a nicer place for them to live too.
I sincerely hope so.
You're so cold to humans that you like animals.
Are you teasing me?
See, there you go again, making that scary face. Seeing you play with the cat, you look kinda cute. It sure would be nice to see more of that smile around here. I hope you keep using your powers to change this city. I know you can do it. For their sake, too.
That depends on the payment.
Come on. Well, how's this? Consider it the reward for this case. And maybe you could ask for permission next time.
Thanks.
Yeah, when I saw Jaren, when we went into the house, I probably had a feeling that he was probably the culprit. But then, on a second thought, I thought that maybe it'd be too easy to suspect him right away. But it turned out he actually was the culprit. And to figure it out was actually very genius. Something that is well thought of, very thorough, and I feel like if there was an actual, like, Mystery Labyrinth style case for that, then I feel like that'd be a really hard one. But fortunately, since these are sub-stories, they tend to not be very hard to figure out as of so far. So with that being said, that is going to be it for this episode of Master Detective Archives Rain Code. And next time, we're going to be moving on to the next story. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.